Showing you how I made the pattern for the skirt. The first thing you need to do is to measure your waist circumference, divide it into two, and add about 6 to 7 inches extra on the waist to make the fuller back of the skirt. So once you're done measuring your waist circumference, you impute it into your pattern as so. If you want the back to be less, you can reduce the amount of extra inches you're adding to your waist measurement. But if you like it fuller, you can add more inches to the extra measurement. This is your center back and this is your center front. So guys, this is how I folded my fabric. I hadn't enough fabric, so the center front happened to be open because I needed the length for the back. So if yours is enough for the front to be closed, you go ahead and mark. But for mine, I'm going to improvise the front to give it a neater look after. So the next thing you need to do is to measure from your waistline down to wherever the full length you want your skirt to be. As for mine, I left it somewhere on my knee. So from the back, you measure down to wherever you want the length to stop at the back. So now, the next thing you need to do is to mark out the middle of your waistline, and from there, you trace down. I needed this line to ensure that the back measurement is extended towards the center front after the side seam line. So watch how I'm going to make my measurements. Then from the center back, I take the measurement there to go around the skirt towards the center front of the skirt. So as you can see, I've exceeded the side seam and I'm still marking the same full length measurement I measured at the back. So from there, I extend it to the front, center front. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out my pattern. So guys, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channels for more interesting videos. I would also like to read your comments and suggestions on more videos you want me to make for you. The next thing to do is to open up the center back of your pattern because you will need to insert a zipper. Then after we open up the center back, now we're moving over to creating the waistband of your skirt. As you can see, I've already marked out 2 inches for side allowance and 1 inch above. So from the line, you measure out your waistline. Then you measure out the length you want your waistband to be. I'm leaving mine at 2.5 inches. So the next thing to do is to trace out your line. That is your center front. And that is your side seam allowance. You can choose to insert the allowance after you must have finished making your waistband pattern, but I like doing mine now so that I wouldn't forget it. So I'm tracing up 1/2 inch above the lower part of the waistband and 1/2 inch above the waistband. So I'm marking half of the waistband measurement from top and below. So from that half of the waistband, I'm tracing up to the 1/2 inch allowance I made below and above the waistline. So the next thing you're going to do is to make sure that you trace your waistband towards your side seam allowance before you cut out your pattern. And this is your front waistband pattern. After tracing out your pattern, you'll be needing it to trace out your back waistband. So the next thing to do now is to mark 1/2 inch above the waistband and then trace down slightly. You're cutting out 1/2 inch from the upper part of the waistband to create a more fitted look on the waist. So you're going to trace out the back waistband using the front waistband pattern. So what you will be needing to do here is to trace your pattern. So after you have done that, you need to use your ruler to complete these patterns. That is your center back. Then you extend the line to create room for zip allowance. The amount of inches you're leaving out for your zip allowance is entirely up to you, and depending on the amount of fabric you have available to work with. Now, the next thing you're going to do after marking your pattern is to cut it out. Then you get it ready to cut your fabric. So here is your waistband pattern. Now we're moving over to cutting our fabric. As you can see, I've already cut my poly material, and this is my organza material. So we're going over to the sewing. This is my center front. So as I told you that my center front pattern was open, so I'm going to improvise it by cutting a strap of my organza material. Then I'm going to be pleating it on the right side of the fabric. I'll fold it and pleat it on the right side of my fabric to create a design on it so that it won't look ordinary or like a mistake. So I'm going to pleat it up towards the upper part all through. So after pleating the strap of organza, the next thing you will do is to sew your center front together. Now that I've done that, I also did the same thing on my organza material, as you can see. Now I'm going to join both fabrics together, both at the waistline and at the center back, as I'm showing you on the video. The next thing to do after you must have sewn your materials together is to mark where your zip will start and stop from your waist down. I'm leaving out 7 inches, so I'm sewing the rest down. I'm closing the rest of the gap at the center back. So now that I'm done with it, it's time to work on the waistline. So I'm going to measure from my center front, the waist. I'm going to mark out my waist, and then the rest of it I'm going to pleat to get the waistline as well. You pleat the extra fabric you added to your waist. So the next thing to do now is to sew the top of your waistband. You only sew at the top of your waistband. So when you are done sewing the top of your waistband, the next thing to do is to join the waistbands together by opening up the right side of the front waistband. Then you join it to the back, right side to right side. Then you mark out the seam allowance you measured at your pattern, and that's where you'll be sewing your waistband. You do the same for both sides of the waistband. So after I finished sewing my waistband together, I cut off all the excesses to avoid bulgy look at the side of my skirt. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to sew this together to join both the waistband and the interface together. So when I'm done with that, I'm going to mark out the center front of my waistband and the center front of the skirt, put them together and sew the waistband around the waist of the skirt. Now that I'm done doing that, I'm going to sew in the zipper. So you use the zip allowance that you made at your pattern to sew in your zipper. Also, you hem the tip of your fabric or you weave any one you desire. Then a quick tip on how I sew in my zipper. Before I fix my zipper, I usually run stitches around the zip allowance to hold down the material because it's a sheer material. So I'll go ahead and fix my zipper. Now I've done that, my skirt is ready. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you like and subscribe for more interesting videos. Bye.